We're at Nathan Phillips Square and have the honor of talking to
Corporal Daniel Bulford for Mounties for Freedom.
Okay, what's that about? How long have you been working with them?
Well, I originally had joined with Police on Guard earlier this year, and then I would say near the end of August, beginning of September, I learned that there was a group specific to the Mounties. So since I'm a member of the RCMP, I joined that group because Police on Guard is working on a macro scale for police in general in Canada, whereas the Mounties, we have specific legislation that is unique to us. So I felt it was more applicable and more sustainable for me to monitor what was going on with that group and just trust that Police on Guard was dealing with the big picture.
And recently you had a change in your job.
Yes, that's true.
To be blunt. Tell me about that.
So I'm currently off work, and I am going to be put on leave without pay later on this month.
And that job description was?
I was a member of the emergency response team, which is our version of a tactical unit.
And what do they do?
It's the RCMP version of a SWAT team.
Okay. So is there any particular group of people you protect, or just whenever someone makes the call?
Both. Predominantly, most of our time is spent protecting people like the Prime Minister of Canada and other high-profile people.
Okay. So how did your job description and your job change? What happened? What was the process that you decided to leave, or what was the process there? In your own words.
My coworkers knew my stance on the vaccine mandate and the vaccine policies. So after the announcement was made official in early October, two of my supervisors, who are close friends of mine, they approached me and said, we can see what this is doing to you, and we're concerned that this might not be a healthy environment for you to be in right now. And they encouraged me to take some time off to be with my family and think about what I wanted to do. So I did. And then I agreed to become kind of the de facto spokesperson for now for Mounties for Freedom. Like we felt, as a group, we felt that someone had to go public, and I was prepared to do that. I felt that I had enough knowledge about the situation to speak, to articulate myself well, and I was willing to suffer the consequences of what the RCMP may bring to me in a disciplinary fashion.
Well, let me ask you this, what led you to the conclusion that you came to, that you found that the COVID legislation, shall we say, wasn't a fit for you or didn't agree with your intel, being highly trained yourself in the force?
Well, I looked at, for the better part of this last year, I was trying to look at both sides of the argument, both from the official narrative side and the counter-narrative side. I was trying to look at it with an open mind and make an evidence-based decision based on my background and my experience as an investigator prior to my time in the tactical world. And I found that overwhelmingly, the scientific and medical community who were speaking out against the safety concerns and the lack of efficacy of the vaccine products and the suppression of early treatments for people who are infected, their information was a much higher quality, and they were much more credible in my mind as compared to what we were hearing from our government and our public health and our mainstream media. So I had decided, I was comfortable with my decision that we're all adults. We all have a responsibility to inform ourselves and make our own decisions. So as long as they were to leave it about individual choice, I was comfortable with my position. When they started to take that choice away from people, that's when I felt I really started to have that inner turmoil about needing to do something. And for a long time I was spinning multiple different scenarios in my mind about what to do, what can I do, what's going to happen, if I do this, then what? And that was probably the greatest source of stress and anxiety throughout this last few months. So when I finally committed to speaking out publicly, I immediately started to feel better. Even though there's a very high likelihood I will lose my job. I'm already going to lose my income come mid-November. Technically, they're trying to say that it's not punitive, which of course it is. You're taking my income away, and you're within their management group. They even have a sentiment that exists within their management. Please don't encourage members to seek alternative employment, because if we remain employed by them, even though we're on leave without pay, we still have to seek their authorization to get a different job. And that's in place to prevent a conflict of interest, but how can you take our income away and then say don't encourage them to seek alternative employment? Right? I don't have a giant pot of money to draw from. So I just got to that point where I was no longer willing to be silent about what was happening, because they took the choice from people and they were coercing people to do this at risk of, you won't be allowed to be involved in your children's activities and we're going to take your income away. And that was the line for me. That was where I drew my line and said, no, not anymore. I cannot be a part of this, and I will not be complicit in this. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Do you have children?
3.
So let me ask another interesting question. How long have you been debating this? And then what was the needle that said, okay, I have the facts? And part B is, how come you just didn't, like they say, follow orders and not look at alternative information sources to look at other narratives? What do your buddies do? They just, okay, captain says this is it, government says it's approved, quote unquote, and you follow orders.
I don't know. No, it was the younger guy. Oh, okay.
I don't think it's about following orders for most people. Most of the people I work with are very capable, very intelligent people. They're just, it's really difficult to decide who's telling you the truth. And we all have we're all living busy lives. We all have family commitments and work commitments, and people are just trying to do the best that they can. And so you're only going to find the information that I found if you really go looking for it. If you put if you put your faith in the government and public health and the mainstream media to be acting and providing information in your best interest, you're not going to find any of the information that I have come across myself in my own efforts to educate myself on both sides of the argument.
So let me ask you this, like, what was your source of other information to consider? How are you aware of the other source? Because again, you're working for the government and there's a narrow window of training and directives that you follow, and don't go outside that, don't read that newspaper, don't listen to that person.
Well,
how did you?
They can't restrict what I educate myself on. And so I just started paying attention to the scientific and medical experts that had something to say, that they were expressing concern. So my biggest resources have been the Canadian COVID Care Alliance, people like Dr. Byron Bridle, Dr. Ira Berenstein, Dr. Eric Payne, Dr. Charles Hoff. There's no shortage of them. Practicing physicians who are treating patients, and medical experts that their research is specific to these fields. And then in the United States, there's some big names down there. The FLCCC, Dr. Pierre Corey, Paul Merrick, Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Robert Malone, in the United Kingdom, Dr. Tess Lowry, the Bird Group. They're all saying the same things. And these are all people, they're not fringe at all. They've all spent their entire professional lives working in immunology and virology and vaccine development. They know this world inside and out. The critical care physicians and the family physicians that are treating COVID patients, they have the real life experience with this disease, as opposed to public health officials.